Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Create With podcast, the podcast where we talk about building software using AI and no code. I'm James, and I'm here with Kieran.
Hello.
Good to be back. This is our first kind of regular episode after the two specials that we did over in New York and in Paris. It kind of feels like a long time ago now that we've all kind of been settling back in. But of course, there's been a huge amount of news and stuff happening in the industry. Loads of AI news, lots of no-code news too. And of course, me and Kieran have been working on our projects as well. So maybe that's a great place to kick off. So Kieran, yeah, how's things been going with you? Because I've seen you've been posting a lot.
Yeah, it's, when you go to these conferences and stuff, you kind of feel like they're amazing experiences, but you don't get any work done. And then you come home and you have to hit the ground running. And that's what I've done. So I think last time we actually gave a project update, I was working on this build, launch and monetize challenge. I gave myself 4 weeks to build to come up with choose an idea, build the product, launch it, and then monetize it. So I got as far as the launch part. And I still had 2 weeks to go. It was during that 2 weeks we were at the NoCode Summit, so I'd really set myself quite a hard challenge. But also during those 2 weeks, I got involved with another project, and this one just had too much potential, so I felt like I couldn't really ignore it in favor of this blam challenge, as I like to call it. So I put that on hold. And the new project I'm working on is it is a faceless video generator for TikTok and YouTube using AI. The guy who I'm working on it with is actually the same guy who acquired Yep.so from me. So I've known him for a while. He is really good at buying SaaS products and selling them on. And he's seen a market opportunity for this kind of product. So he actually got a developer to build this one from scratch using my bullet launch template, and then he approached me and said, can you become like the main dev on this? And as it's built using bullet launch, it's like super easy for me to take over. So I've just been working on that a lot of hours because it's quite complicated. The part about generating complete videos from scratch is quite complex, and he wanted to change like the pricing structure and basically the whole UI. So I've been working on that pretty much nonstop, but I'm learning loads about video generation and stuff like that. And it's almost ready to release like the fully updated version, which is really exciting. And the other thing I've been doing is I had a brief period playing around with BuildShip, which I'd never used before, but I saw that they were offering like a tutorial if you like retweeted them or something. So I jumped on that, got the tutorial. And basically following their tutorial, I was able to train a image generation model, Flux, which I'd never heard of before. But it's the first time I've actually been able to train an AI image generator. So I fed it some images of my face, and then I was able to tell it, okay, I want to see what I look like on a horse or like jumping out of an airplane, and it could just generate it. And I thought that was really cool. And then I obviously trained it on pictures of my wife and did some funny pictures for her. And then, and that just opened up a world of possibilities of like different things I could train this on and then generate interesting images. So like one thing I've always struggled with before is keeping consistent characters. Like if you're building an app to do a kid's story, the characters are different in every image, but if you use this, then you will be able to get consistent characters throughout. So that's super interesting. So I actually started working on a MVP of like a YouTube thumbnail generator, and after I finished with what I'm doing with this video generator, I think I'm going to pursue that because I think it's got good potential, like a very obvious market for it. So that's what I've been doing.
Nice, very, very busy. I actually had a play around with it as well after I saw your tutorial, and it's a lot of fun. It's also really weird, I found. So like training it on your own photos and then yeah, like asking to see yourself as like prime minister or president or something. It's very strange. Some quite horrifying outputs as well, but it looked fairly simple API wise through Replicate to do. And then you were doing it, I think, through BuildShip, weren't you? And I just did it through Replicate directly, which I think maybe was a little bit more technical, but it still worked fine. And it cost, I think in my examples, it cost like $3 or $4 to train the model, and it took about an hour or something like that. But then, yeah, like through the Replicate UI, you basically kind of got a Chat GPT type thing where you can type in what kind of scenario you want it to generate using that model that you've created, and then you get the kind of fairly consistent outputs. So yeah, I was really cool to see that that post you did. Because yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, and it was interesting using BuildShip as well because I hadn't really understood what it is, and I still don't fully understand what it is. But to me, it seems like they have done all the complicated API integrations for you, and then they give you a simpler interface where you just drop in your API key, and they basically tell you what other variables you need to put in there and allow you to kind of chain them together. That's my kind of understanding of it. So it's a bit like Zapier, but like with a lot more room to actually edit the underlying code within your API call. That's my feeling. So I felt like I could have built this in Bubble and done all the API calls myself, but it just would have taken quite a lot longer. So BuildShip really saved a ton of time in doing that. And also I was able to just duplicate their existing workflows and use them. And that was just super quick.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen a lot of very positive stuff about BuildShip. It's definitely on my list of things to try, along with N8N as well. I've been reading a lot about. I think that one's interesting as well because you can kind of self-host it. It's like a self-hosted Zapier, basically, isn't it? So that I'm definitely going to have a play around with that as well. With both of those, as they sound really good. And I saw you also did a couple of tutorials. One I found really interesting, which was this new kind of AI generator for taking basically a blog post and turning it into graphics and kind of or not illustrations but kind of diagrams, wasn't it? I thought that was a very cool tool.
Yeah, it was. Generally I don't really play around much with new tools, but that one just seems so good. It's like you take any bit of text and it can turn it into a nice diagram, and certainly if you give it like any kind of framework or like bullet points, it will turn it into a nice looking image which can obviously greatly improve people's understanding. So if you're making like presentations or blog posts and it's just a wall of text and you're like, how am I going to make images? I mean, we've been sick to death of the Microsoft like default smart images or whatever, smart diagrams for the last like 20 years. So this just was really good, and sometimes it would like augment the information you'd given it with AI, so it would actually expand on your own words and provide more detail, which I thought was to be expected, but it was still a kind of wow moment. And actually my friend was saying that he needed to do a presentation at work this week to try and get a promotion, and he said he was going to just chuck in all his notes into ChatGPT and get the slide words out, and I said, well, use this and you'll get some really nice diagrams. And for sure, if you're using it in an environment where people have never used tools like this, they're going to say, what, like, you actually went to the time to make these custom diagrams? This is the best presentation we've seen. Definitely give you a promotion. So at this moment in time, it is a great time to be using little things like this in your regular day job and just impressing your colleagues.
100%. And it's just even knowing these things exist. It's like these tools seem to be emerging so quickly, just keeping up with what's possible. I was quite shocked when I saw that demo because I hadn't really seen, very high quality diagrams being generated. I have used quite a bit the kind of flow diagram generators that you can do. using ChatGPT to generate the script that then you kind of generate the flowchart with, which is very cool. Like great for database diagrams and flowcharts and stuff. But this was a whole nother level of like properly detailed and different diagrams, not just kind of flowcharts. So I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, for anyone who wants to check that tutorial out, it's on the Create With YouTube channel, and the app is called napkin.ai.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
It is. So what have you been up to, James?
Yeah, I've been very busy actually. So obviously, I think probably since we last spoke, we had the big transition of everyone being moved off of the bubble legacy plans onto the new pricing. So that all happened. Obviously, I had to spend quite a lot of time reducing the number of workflows my app had and doing all sorts of stuff. So I'm kind of glad that's now largely over and done with. And since that's been done, I've been really focusing on this is something I've been debating probably with myself for the last year or two, whether to make UserLoop a multi-product company or not. And I think we've probably touched on it a bit before. But I decided that I was going to do that after a couple of customers chatting with them, and that there was a specific tool that they were interested in having. So that's nearly ready to be released. So I've been building all of that, and it's been quite interesting to build it actually, because I've built it in pretty much a completely different way than I built the original UserLoop app, because all of the real high flow logic and database and everything is outside Bubble, because I was planning ahead for it. You kind of planning for this feature to be successful and have millions of throughputs through it, and to do that on the Bubble, it's kind of sad, but to do it on the Bubble, all on Bubble, is just, you can't make it. I don't really think that I could make the feature cost competitive in the market, and I really want to do something that's kind of a bit disruptive and offer this feature at a lower price. So I've been building all of the back end for it using Claude and Cloudflare workers and Tinybird, all of which we've spoken about before. But yeah, I mean, I continue to be kind of blown away by this combination of using Claude and Cloudflare workers in particular to generate these kind of effectively little microservices that do specific things. And I've transitioned a lot of my app to that kind of methodology now. And it's, one, it does reduce the cost considerably. Obviously, Cloudflare is next to free to run. It's very fast. But also for AI tasks, I found it to be very, very reliable and fast, faster than running them in Bubble through a workflow. So for doing kind of complex prompting and all this kind of stuff. I did do a video on it a while ago about how to set it up. It is surprisingly easy. And with the recent update of Claude 3.5 Sonnet, kind of new version that kind of came out a week or two ago, it's even better at doing it. And some of these microservices are really getting quite complex now. So yeah, I'm having to edit some of them in Cursor because there's too much script for regular Claude to edit. So that's been kind of fun to get used to. But yeah, I kind of super bullish on this. This technique of using Bubble kind of as the glue, mainly kind of UI wise, and for certain kind of core elements of the database that don't have millions of records. So maybe for like user tables and configurations and stuff, storing that stuff in Bubble. But for very high volume tables, using this combination of using Claude to generate this kind of code that runs in Cloudflare, and then your database of choice, depending on what your use case is really powerful. I mean, I think you could also use the same techniques I'm using to do things like Supabase functions and do it in Supabase if you wanted to. Mine is more of a kind of an analytical use case, so that's why I've been using Tinybird. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a window for me into me being able to build features that I would have never been able to build even a year ago. So it's really exciting, this kind of transition we're in from kind of fully no-code tools into like AI-generated code and running that in the cloud, becoming a real thing. And yeah, I'm shipping features with it that are, super reliable and working well. So it's been a fun process for sure.
Well, that's amazing. So interesting. Do you find that Claude writes the code correctly on the first try, or is it like try it, doesn't work, paste it back in, got this error? Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. How about this one? And you're like, why didn't you get it right the first time if you knew it was a mistake?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is me learning to prompt better. I think at the beginning I was doing stuff and then probably not being descriptive enough in my prompt, and then like having to get a lot of errors from you test it in Cloudflare, you get the error, put it back into Claude, it fixes it, and you kind of iterate that way. But I'm now getting to the point where I will sit there for 20 minutes, half an hour, writing the very first prompt for the thing that I want to make, and into that prompt I'm putting a huge amount of information of like I'm very clearly describing the database that I want to use and how I want to store the API keys, how I want the worker to be secured, like really doing a lot of that stuff up front, and then increasingly they work first time with very minimal tweaks. Obviously it's pretty easy to make tweaks, and it's very quick iteration. Like you do the edit in Claude, copy the code, run it in Cloudflare. If it works, great. If not, then you kind of can go back and forth and do little tweaks and stuff. But it is pretty seamless. I am very curious to try Replit, because I hear that all of that is integrated in Replit, like the that process is more closely tied. But to be honest, I'm still pro Cloudflare, because like the cost of running it is so cheap. I don't know what Replit's costs of running their compute are, but I don't know of anyone really that's beating Cloudflare workers from that perspective. So for me, I quite like doing it all in that. But yeah, increasingly going from just one very detailed prompt to working code. I love it.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd love to see you do that sometime. I want to try it, but I'm still a bit nervous because every time I ask Claude to like write any code, it's often wrong the first few times. But my prompts are always like super basic, so that's probably why.
I might share some of my kind of boilerplate prompts, as I was super intimidated by it at first as well, and I think it's only through I did a very simple thing on it to start with, and I was like, oh, this is working really well, and then I've kind of now it's becoming my default way to add new features into Bubble. It will, instead of spending ages doing a workflow, often I'll just say this is easier to do in Claude, like to do the whole thing, write the prompt, write all the API calls, everything. So yeah, we should definitely cover it a little bit more in future, because it's a fascinating topic, and I think it's going to be more and more software is going to get done that way. So it's one to watch for sure.
Yeah, it's such an interesting way of building a combination of no code and code and little code modules. It does make a lot of sense. And regarding like the multi-platform thing, I was going to ask like if you've noticed any uptick in your customers for UserLoop from Shopify, because I imagine Shopify must be eating quite a lot of the former WordPress e-commerce websites who are moving away from WordPress because of all the controversy and potential instability, and switching to Shopify instead. So I was thinking the future is looking bright for Shopify, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is. I think it will take a while to feed through to the kind of app store ecosystem that I'm a part of, purely because I think a lot of the bigger sites are now just starting the conversation, or they're in the process of migrating. They may be, they haven't done it yet. A lot of the smaller stores probably have moved. I haven't noticed a major uptick yet, but I've certainly seen a lot of people expressing interest in it, and dissatisfaction of the chaos of what's happening with WordPress, which is just not good to see. For if I was a WordPress developer, I would be very unhappy with what is happening with the ecosystem in general, and I think it is giving a lot of people who've maybe been using WordPress for years and years a chance to look at actually how has the market changed in the last couple of years. There are tools like Shopify, Bubble, Webflow. There is a lot of stuff out there now to build stuff with. So whereas back in the day, I think it was kind of WordPress was the main way you would do anything, and then you'd be hacking together plugins to try and get whatever you wanted to work. But now you can pretty much build whatever you want with these other tools. So I think people are taking another look. But yeah, I've not noticed it filtering through just yet. But I think as soon as this new product is launched, that will be another interesting moment. Obviously, the product has been 100% up until this point surveys only, and this will be another entire vertical that we'll be kind of targeting. It's very complementary and cross-sell into surveys. So it's like I'm keeping it all in the same app, it's going to be a new option on the left menu, basically. But depending on how this goes, it may kind of mean I take this strategy further and actually start trying to bundle more into UserLoop. Because I'm thinking about it a lot as well from the point of view of the merchant, where I know a lot of the Shopify merchants are getting quite irritated with the size of their app store bills for all these different applications that they have to run that are all very expensive, and some of them should not be as expensive as they are. So I do feel like with this wave of AI making stuff easier to do, and cheaper to run, that we can pass that on to customers. The other thing about this new vertical that I'm opening up is that it's not Shopify only. Anyone can sign up and use it. Yes, if you have Shopify, you'll get some extra features in UserLoop, but the idea with it as well is that anyone can sign up and use it. So it's again broadening out the appeal a bit and being very competitive on price. I think it will be the lowest priced option in the market with all the features included on the base plan. I'm going to be quite aggressive with not feature gating everything on it. It's going to be part of our existing plan structure. So I'm trying to make UserLoop a bit of a no-brainer for merchants, where you would just take out our $29 plan, $99 plan, and you're getting a load of features for that. And it's hopefully a bit of a no-brainer. So you're going to get surveys and a ton of other things as well included. Yeah,
sounds like a very good strategy. Obviously, a lot of people tell you to double your prices, whatever they are. But certainly when you know the market as well as you do, you'll know when it's the right time to try and be beating people on prices.
Yeah, that's it. I think that some of the SaaS prices, to be like from a consumer or a merchant point of view, have just got a bit stupid. When you're looking at what you're getting for the price, yes, as a SaaS vendor, it's tempting to keep increasing your prices forever. But actually, when you're looking at how easy it's going to be for competitors to enter the market, I think there is room to pass some of the savings on from running a platform efficiently onto customers. And that's really what I'm trying to do. Is like, we've not done VC funding, we haven't got thousands of employees or whatever, so it's very cost effective to run the company. So therefore it feels like we should be one of the more affordable options that people can choose, and that does more than the other competitors, trying to make it kind of a no-brainer that people would choose it. So I'll be interested to report back once this is launched. It probably is going to be launched within the next week, so we can catch up about it on the next podcast and see a little bit about how it's gone. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And I look forward to the update. I think we are just about on time now, so we agreed to keep this one short and sweet. But yeah, we're looking forward to the update, and I know you've got some travels up and coming, so perhaps the next podcast will be recorded from a exotic destination somewhere. Yeah,
I'm kind of taking advantage of being like a bit of an indie maker and going off for a month traveling around Thailand and Vietnam. So I think our next episode might be from co-working place over there somewhere. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah,
jealous.
Good to catch up. Good episode, and I think also the other thing we just remind everyone is I think we've got 1 week left of early bird prices on the Create With conference, and then that will be it for the early bird tickets. So if you are interested in coming along, it's shaping up to be an amazing event. In May next year, head to createwith.com now. That is the lowest price we're ever going to do on the tickets, so get in while you can. They are selling really, really well, and we've got some amazing sponsors and speakers lined up that we're going to be starting to announce shortly, so very exciting times, so don't miss out on that. I think that's it for this week, so thanks very much for joining us. Thanks, Kieran. And if you want to check out Kieran's tutorial, don't forget to head over to the Create With channel on YouTube, or you can also find it on our X and LinkedIn accounts as well. But that's it for this week, so thanks very much. Thanks, Kieran.
Thanks very much. Cheers, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.